You know, we've often said here on the show, it's difficult, isn't it, in this climate today, to be able to sell anything. I don't know about you, but you're sort of bombarded, aren't you, with images all the time on your phone, on your iPad, wherever you go, even watching TV. It's an endless plethora of things that you're supposed to be taking, doing, reading, whatever. You know, you literally are sort of an advertiser's dream. I tell you what I noticed as well, and I've never noticed this until before, that I was talking to a colleague about a certain product, and guess what? Suddenly it popped up on my iPad. Yes, you see, Big Brother truly is listening to you. Absolutely. But you see, now in this very difficult, crowded market of royal books and people doing tours and all sorts of things, you have to think of stunted ideas, quite frankly, to make sure that you shock. And more importantly, of course, get people to finally buy your product. It's a difficult time. Now, interestingly, you know, I can tell you that the stories, having worked in the entertainment industry, are literally fascinating. Who remembers Michael Jackson literally, apparently sleeping nightly in an oxygen tent? Remember that story? That was completely made up, concocted by Michael's PR team and his record label at the time. They were busy selling big albums, and the more wacky you could make Wacko Jacko, as they teasingly called him then, the more you got front page headlines. You remember Bubbles the monkey, all that sort of stuff. It was all there to attract attention and deflect away from other sort of, shall we say, rather more negative, salacious stories going around at the time. What's fascinating to note though is this: as a brand new book comes out now, all about exactly how King Charles and our late and beautiful monarch Queen Elizabeth II had a wonderful relationship, or not, as the case may be, well, you have to come up with rather shocking things. And quite frankly, I wanted to share this with you. As ever, let me explain. How are you? I'm sorry it looks a little bit dark and grey at the moment. I know, we'll have a quick wave. We are at Buckingham Palace. It does look nice though, doesn't it? In the light, yes. I think they've put the lights in because they know I'm coming. Well, they will do, won't they? Well, they're bound to have the jammy dodgers out, the pot of tea brewing. Absolutely. I always love coming to film down here. You know, I've done it so many years, so many times, but each time you do meet some wonderful people. And thank you to all those lovely people that come up and say, you watch the channel. I'm truly, truly moved. Very kind of you, honestly. But it's nice, isn't it, to think that people just come down to Buckingham Palace to take a look and soak up the atmosphere. And when you think of the history, as I often say, it's literally all around you here, isn't it? But of course, some history is literally made up to sell books. And as ever, I have to say, allegedly. You see, the latest story that comes around is this brand new book all about the relationship between His Majesty the King, King Charles, and his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Now, as everybody knows, the story goes that, of course, she might not have been the most attentive early mother. This is because she was also a very young monarch, different times, different sets of rules, as we all know. But that really doesn't sell books, does it? So what you have to do is come up with this sort of salacious idea. And the latest salacious idea is simply this, that King Charles slept in an oxygen tent. And apparently he's got such a terrible memory, he has to make notes every time and pop them in his top pocket. Now, I don't know about you, apart from the oxygen tent, I can totally relate to the notes, can't you? I make notes everywhere, even reminding myself to wake up. You just do, don't you? Well, how true is the oxygen tent? Well, what I would say to you is this. It's a fascinating story, and what really it was yes, there was an oxygen tent used briefly on His Majesty the King years ago now when he had a fall during polo, simply because, you know, it was a bit of a bad fall. That's the only time. But this has now been spun into a story that is apparently so shocking, apparently it's going to sell the book. What I do find fascinating about this is the particular author behind that really should know better, given the fact they were exposed for already saying the one thing and actually never seen the documentary in the first place. I'll leave it there. But this is what people now are allowed to do. The whole point of this channel, for me particularly, is to be able to share with you the true background stories that I find out directly from the palace behind me. And it's interesting, isn't it? Just in this very difficult time for His Majesty the King, somebody would write something a little bit so crass, shocking, and more importantly, totally untrue. Neil Sean, Buckingham Palace, London.